meeting for June the 7th. Dr. Ophelim Goins and Pastor Cameron Hill is zooming in tonight. And this time, Warren Hill from Bethel Baptist Church leads some prayer. Mr. Martin, please.
Father, we thank you so much for the honor to be able to pray here tonight. Thank you for allowing us to do that. Thank you that the commissioners allow us to do this. Father, I pray for each one of them that you help them make the right decisions, that you guide them, direct them, lead them, Lord. I pray, I just pray, Father, that you be with all the presentations that will be made tonight, Lord, and that you everything to turn out your way, not our way, but your way. And Father, we just ask for your blessings. We need your help more than any other help we need is yours. And we pray for that tonight. Lead, guide, and direct us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Warren, for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to approve the consent items. So moved. Motion by Mr. Bullock, second by Mr. Britt. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Call roll.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Britt?
Yes.
Mr. Bullock?
Yes.
Mr. Cogdale?
Yes.
Dr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Hester?
Yes.
Dr. Mungoins? Mr. McGill?
Yes. So item 3 is 3A, is a public hearing to receive comments regarding proposed 21-22 budget. At this time, I declare the public hearing open. Ms. Marie?
Nathan Dallas?
Good evening, Commissioners. How you doing? Thank you for allowing me to speak with you tonight. As you're well aware from budget meetings and things like that, I requested a four-drive diesel truck in my budget. This is for the purpose of when we have events and things like that. Prime example is last week when we had all the woods fires going, I had to leave the current 2500 we have hooked up to our, what we call our rehab trailer, because that's currently the only truck we have. It was actually off-site in Kelly pretty much all week, a couple of weeks ago, so that leaves me pretty much without a truck all week. That's just one example. When we have hurricanes and things like that, we're moving trailers around, generators around, and it's a lot of trips for one person in one truck because we only have that one truck to pull things with. So my current plan, I guess what I'm asking is to reconsider putting that in the budget now. It was requested, but it's not in the proposed budget. I've since talked to Greg, and I think I requested a diesel. I would be willing to take a 3/4 ton gas if that would ease some of the burden. That was what, $8,000 cheaper, I believe, than buying a diesel. It just gives us more capability to move things around. The 2500 truck I've got now is utilized by a lot of departments on different things. So I just think it would help us provide better service, make things a whole lot quicker in emergency events and things like that. So that's my purpose of getting up here in the budget hearing, to ask you to reconsider putting that in the budget for this year. The initial request was for $48,500 for a diesel. There I said if we go gas, which is the same type of truck I've got now, it will be $8,000 cheaper per state contract. Of course, I could bid it out to see if we could get it cheaper anywhere else than state contract. But that also added in there is the cost to put a radio in that also, and lights for emergency situations, and some sort of toolbox or bed cover or something on the back for hauling equipment.
So the 48,000 would cover all that you just mentioned, but
yeah, that one would cover the diesel. Now, if you get gas, it would be around a tick over 40,000. So
That include all the additive that you.
Lights, radio, and some sort of vehicle or something. And the current truck I drive now, is a 2017, it's got about 76,000 miles on it. And what we would use it for on a daily basis is our addressing person drives a 2007 F-150, it's got about 260,000 on it. So he could utilize that on a day-to-day basis, putting up road signs and things like that, so.
Ask a person. I know we came in a while back, and we got those big vehicles that we use at the sheriff's department.
Yes, the high clearance vehicles.
What I'm saying is, if you can't utilize any of those vehicles, I thought that's what we purchased those things for emergencies and flooding and these kind of things. But you talking about just the general all-the-time purpose. What are you talking
Yeah, this is all time purpose. This is just a regular pickup truck. The trucks you're referring to are the big military type high clearance vehicles that we use in storms.
So you had to use somebody we couldn't utilize those.
Yeah, we can utilize those, but this is what you pull like, say like I got triple axle 40-foot trailers at the training center. You can't pull them with a high clearance vehicle like that.
Okay.
We're talking just a normal, like you see these big F-250s and things right now.
A normal pickup.
It's a normal pickup truck.
Okay, I didn't know what you were talking, what you were talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas. Mr. Mark, on that, we'll discuss your budget workshop. Ms. Marie?
Okay. Mr. Troy, Mr. Stanley, and Dr. Lee with PCC.
Good evening.
So we are really here just to say thank you. We have had a fantastic year this past year in spite of all of the other challenges with the COVID and the pandemic. And you've gotten our budget request, and we wanted to let you know that we appreciate your consideration. And we also wanted to take a second or two and just share with you some of the wonderful things that have been happening on our campus. I think you've heard about our graduation. I think one of our recent graduates is in here with us. And we're so excited to have so many people around us that have a connection to Bladen Community College. Throughout this past year, we had one of our nursing graduates is a veteran that was coming all the way from Cary to our campus because of the wonderful customer service and wonderful program that we have. And he shared with our board recently that his goal is to come back and teach for us. We also had a young woman who was working at one of our local industries, and the conditions were very cold to the point that she was starting to have some physical reactions to being in the cold weather. And we were able to reskill her, and so now that she has a new job in a new environment and is thriving. We also just started a machining class this past week where we are going to be responding to the needs of some of our local industries here that are looking for employees, and actually have a waiting list for that class for the fall. So we're doing some really amazing things on our campus. We're really excited about what we're doing, and we could not do any of it without your support. And I know Mr. Troy wanted to say a few things as well, and Mr. Stanley's also here to answer questions.
Giving honor to Jesus Christ, and I echo Dr. Amanda Lee's comments, and the comments is reference to thank Mike Cardell, Commissioner Cardell, Commissioner Ellis, Commissioner Gill, Commissioner Britt, Commissioner Gillespie, Commissioner Hester, Commissioner Bullock, and Commissioner Ophir Mungines. We come to thank you for y'all supporting our budget proposal going forward, knowing that we couldn't do this if it wasn't for the support we get from the commissioners. So we take this time to come thank you. I had an opportunity to be in Fayetteville today at the Total Places. A young lady there, I asked her if we got a conversation. The conversation went to her daughter going to Bladen Community College. Then it went to a young man that goes to East Bladen that graduated with an associate degree in high school from Bladen Community College. So the thing is, what can you do to help a student be success? Commissioners, we thank you all for supporting us financially. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add a comment. First of all, it's an honor and a pleasure to represent the commissioners on the Board of Trustees with the college. But I'd like to make a comment to the gentleman from Cary. And I think it's safe to say this man's sort of a middle-aged man, and he did a lot of research prior to spending the time to seek an degree in nursing. and found that BCC had one of the highest graduating rates. And his point was, if I'm going to invest the time and the energy, I wanted to know that I was going to get the knowledge and the education to be able to pass for all the time that I had applied. And that was a big point for me to have to hear. And if you'd have saw him on Zoom and how he was so elated, I mean, it would make you come out of your seat, and I think y'all would agree with that. But thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say to Dr. Lee, I heard a lot of talk about your graduation. Even some of your former grads was talking about it, how great it was, and a lot of them attended it, and they're really excited about what you're doing there with your graduation. Maybe you set a forum here for everyone else to try to do the same thing in other colleges and so forth, but there's a lot of talk in the community about what y'all did. I think they talked about the entertainment, but he said you had some drinks or something out there.
Lemonade.
Drinks for kids. But there was a lot of talk about what y'all did, and I appreciate what you did for the kids and also for the citizens of Bladen County and others that came into your school. I appreciate that.
And I will pass that along. It was a group effort, so thank you very much.
Yes.
Mr. Cockdale?
The thing I'd like to thank you for is the program that you're initiating now, that's career oriented, that you're putting into your program. And the one thing, the information I want to find out, I've heard about money that's been received through federal agencies to help during this pandemic. And I've been wondering, did you guys ever get another school system got money?
We did, yes, sir. And so 50% of that money goes directly to the students. So we have dispersed that as we were supposed to. And then the institutional side we've been using to really help us with the pandemic relief. We've spent a lot of that on the supplies that we've needed to sanitize and to keep everything clean and to have the technology that we've needed to have. And so we finished that first disbursement. We're working on the second disbursement, and then we'll hit that third disbursement after we finish the second.
But do y'all have any for like capital type situation or nothing like that? You don't?
So we are certainly going to be responsible where we can, and so we've been using it for some HVAC type things. There's a lot of limitations on what we can use it for, but we're using that first before we would use any of the county money.
Okay.
So your machining classes, you got individuals standing in line to get into that?
We do.
Wow.
We do. Isn't that
That's good.
great?
That's great.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Peters got his hand up. He was a graduate of Bladen Community College in Chairman of the board.
2019. Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Ms. Bree?
Not regarding the
Okay, I declare the public hearing for the budget closed. At this time, I declare a public hearing open to receive comments regarding proposed economic development. Anyone here to speak? If not, I declare the public hearing closed. We'll go to item C. Public hearing to receive comments regarding the rezoning request located at the intersection of NC 41 and NC 41 West and NC 87. I declare the public hearing open. Mr. Elkins, you want to take a few seconds, a few minutes?
Back on April the 8th, I received a rezoning application from Little Commercial Properties. Their request was to rezone a 4.89 acre tract of land, and y'all have done probably where it is, between, or at 4187 West intersection. They had a planning board meeting on May the 18th. They came to the planning board meeting, did their presentation. They are currently here tonight. One of the things that's required is, as all y'all know, what we do is we have to notify adjoining property owners, certified mail. We post the property and we advertise the public hearing in the newspaper. And of course, all those procedures were followed. The planning board, like I said, met on the 18th and gave a recommendation that's also in your packet. And tonight, we come here tonight to hold the public hearing. And I know there's several people here that have signed up to speak, so I'll just turn it back over to you.
Okay. Has anyone come in that wants to sign up to speak on this, or come in a few minutes late? Okay, Mr. Who's first?
Mr. Joe Riddle and Mr. Lonnie Plater.
Okay. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening. I have some materials here, if you would care to see them, just as part of our initial presentation.
That'd be great.
If I might pass them out.
Sure.
Thank you. These are the same materials that were provided to the planning board when we met.
Can you just put one of the empty seats and we'll give it to them?
Certainly.
Thank you. Let's put number 12 on, is all.
It is exactly the same thing. I apologize for that. Thank you to the members of the commission. My name is Lonnie Clare. I'm an attorney from Fayetteville. I represent Riddle Commercial Properties. With me tonight is the company's owner, Mr. Joe Riddle. This is, as you've heard, our rezoning application for the property located at the intersection of Highway 41 and 87 in Dublin to a commercial zoning. It's almost 5 acre, a little less than 5 acre tract, which I know you're all familiar with. I know you're all familiar with this location. As part and parcel of our rezoning application, we were asked by the we were required by the to submit a site plan. We do not currently, as Mr. Riddle will tell you, we do not currently have a tenant for the site, but we had to site plan something. And at the time, we had no idea that there was force main sewer available running by the property. So we site planned for a septic field and just site planned it as a gas station, convenience store. Again, we do not have a tenant in hand ready to go onto the site, but we had to submit something for the county regulations, and that's what we did. If you look at tab 4 of your packet, I've included the relevant portions of the 2030 land use plan for Bladen County. You can see that the property in question falls within the high-density urban development area within the 2030 land use plan for the county. It's currently zoned residential. If you take a look at, and of course, take a look at the last page of tab 4, high-density urban area for that site is encouraged by the plan. Looking at tab 5, these are simply the state, the NCDOT traffic counts, and it came as a surprise to us. We knew a lot of traffic passed by there, but it came as a surprise to us that according to the NCDOT, between 10 and 20,000 cars per day pass that location. So right now, as it stands, it's a very, very busy, high-traffic area, obviously on the route to Wilmington. There is the obvious highest and best use in the current situation for that property would be commercial, we believe, and that's why we requested the rezoning from the planning board and from the commission today. Mr. Riddle's here. I'll turn it over to him to make his presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions. And if at the end we could reserve some time to answer any additional questions you might have after you hear from the public, we would be happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Joseph P. Riddle III, and I live in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I've lived there all my life, other than some time in college in Raleigh and Chapel Hill and Wilmington. And I am full estate developer, contractor, been at it since 1977. About 1985, I started doing commercial and kind of, I guess that's my niche. Done a lot of work, not just in Fayetteville and Wellington and Raleigh and some in Chapel Hill. Try to do what I do within a 100-mile radius of Fayetteville. I like to be at home, but this site, of course, is being marketed. It was, I go to Wilmington quite a bit, and mainly come to Dublin because I'm going to Wilmington or I'm going to buy peanuts for baseball games. I'm involved a lot in the concessions at some of the high schools in Fayetteville, so been to Houston's quite a few times. You know, I noticed this site for sale, and of course, it is the type site that I look for. I mean, being at the intersection of two major highways, it's set up for a four-way traffic signal. I have done that. It's very expensive, but typically when you have a site like this, the DOT would require you to put a decel lane in on coming from Elizabethtown, so you could turn right into the property and get out of their lane. So you have to dedicate a lane of traffic and build it for them. Those usually cost about $100 grand, and then you'd have to, 70 maybe, but you have to go and put in signals on the, you know, it's a three-way stop right now, because traffic from Lumberton stops there and looks straight at the site. So I would, before I do any development, I would end up working with DOT to put a signal in on that side. In my opinion, I know that it may take years before that site is ready for development. Potentially, I think if there was a grocery store to locate in Dublin or in that area, it's the best site for it. This 5-acre tract, because it has access to the signal, would be the key to any type of development that was done there. No matter what is on the 5 acres, there's a lot of land left next to the 5 acres that should be potentially a shopping center. I've done a lot of work with Food Line. I've probably built 10 or 15 food lines and done Kroger. Never got lucky enough to do a Harris Teeter or Publix, but there's quite a few coming. Looks like we're going to get more Publix in Fayetteville anyway. I've done some Walmart work, but I don't think it's a Walmart site. But I do think that it has potential. I don't have any plans to do a convenience store. I guess I riled up the neighborhood with that site plan, but we were asked to create a site plan. And at the time, we did not know there was sewer available there, but we were told by the Mayor Pro Tem in Dublin that there's a force main there that could be accessed. So that would open up a lot of other things that could go there. And potentially, it could be office uses. You know, probably the neighborhood wouldn't want mini storage, but you know, I think there's some mini storage down the road, so maybe that need has been fulfilled. But I've done some mini storage projects too. But if you look at the site and you look at the paperwork that the attorney has spoke about, the land use plan and all that, you know, really it's not a place to put single family homes. I mean, most people don't want to live in a busy intersection like that. I know that back when the houses were built there, it wasn't as busy, and the highway's been changed. So a lot of things have happened there to change the traffic patterns, and you know, growth is going to come. I mean, Bladen County might be a little bit slow, but it's a beautiful place to live. I spent a lot of time at White Lake when I was younger. Elizabethtown's a great town. I know at the planning board, there was one young man on the board that was concerned about anything I might do there might pull from Elizabethtown. I'm certainly not trying to do anything that would hurt Elizabethtown. And I've been to Melvin's. I actually put a Melvin's in Fayetteville, but it didn't work. I guess it wasn't Pat Melvin. They're cooking the hamburgers, but they did try it, and we did the work deal with the people that bought the Melvin's. But if y'all have any questions of me, I mean, I like doing nice things. I understand that you know, there's some residential there that has been there a long time that if I lived there, I'd be concerned. I would be here just like the people that are probably behind me right now. That's good that there's a community of people that care about what happens in a town. But you know, I've lived here all my life. My numbers, people have my phone number. I'm certainly not trying to create a stir or, you know, be the bad guy. I want to do something nice. If I need to do whatever buffering, you know, tall fencing and hedges, and you know, make sure lighting doesn't, you know, protrude into the residential. I did have a call from one of the owners, Mr. McNeil, who said he lived across the street all his life. I looked, and right across the street there's no houses. I mean, across the street could be down the street. I know down the street there's like a a closed no, there's a peanut process in place a little bit down the street, and there's what looked like a closed industrial use that has a bunch of train cars on the property. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but it's kind of dilapidated. I don't know what was there a long time ago, but the Mr. McNeil called and was concerned that, you know, if you put a convenience store there, you know, I asked him if it was noisy there already, and he said, yes, it is. He said, young people drive cars with loud mufflers and loud music blazing out of the car, and we have that in my town too. I mean, I wish we could stop that, but that doesn't seem like the thing to do. You know, right now, you have that at every intersection. So that's there, but he was concerned that, you know, if you build a convenience store, people would be buying cigarettes, lottery tickets, and alcohol. And I agree with him on that. If you had a grocery store, they'd be selling cigarettes and alcohol. They sell lottery tickets too. So, yeah, the state's the one that put the lottery ticket in. I can't do anything about that. But, you know, I would be interested in doing what works and what doesn't hurt the neighborhood. I don't want to be the bad guy that messes up people's livelihood. So I would be certainly open to suggestions, and we would like to have time, if we could, to answer those after the other people speak. But I do think it's a good site, and I think the future will prove that, and I plan on purchasing it. Whether or not I'm successful tonight or not, I've already done right much work with a soil scientist and layouts with an engineer, and so I plan on proceeding in some manner. It may be the future, but I don't mind holding it for long until the time is right, if it's not right. So if y'all have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Alan Brisson?
Do you want me to go first?
Lynn wanted to go first.
Is that okay?
Lynn King?
Yes, ma'am. Greetings to the elected and appointed officials. I'd like to thank you for allowing us to appear before you today and express our concerns. My name is Lynn King, and I thank you for your dedication of serving Bladen County. The time and energy you spend in leading our county is greatly appreciated. As you make decisions concerning zoning of this property that has been just mentioned at the intersection of 87 and 41, I request that you consider the quality of life for those that are living in close proximity to this property. Your quality of life concerns include the element of safety from increased vehicular and foot traffic. Quality of life concerns include noise pollution, light pollution, litter, fumes in the air, as well as oily residue from spills entering our groundwater and eventually our ecosystem. So it is important for longtime residents and newcomers to enjoy a healthy and peaceful and healthy residential environment. So as you look to the future about visiting and voting on this issue, I'd like you to consider how you would vote if this parcel was in your community. Thus, your serious consideration of helping us protect our community is greatly appreciated. Best wishes to you as you continue to guide Bladen County.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Alan Brisson?
Good evening, commissioners. I'm Alan Brisson, and I live in the property right beside this lot that we're talking about. I don't know, has everybody got this map? I'm sure it's probably in Mr. Riddle's package. Something that you don't have though is, what I've got here is a petition. This petition of the residents of Bladen County brings attention to the proposed rezoning a lot from residential agriculture to commercial and the future development which may have substantial impact on the safety and livelihood of the residents and their families. The associated lot and its commercial development would increase traffic to this specific location, which you all know. The undersigned petitioners asked the Bladen County Board of Commissioners to consider the meager benefit for the county versus the significance and hindrance and detriment of such development on the livelihoods of nearby residential areas, their safety, and their quality of life. If I counted correctly, I've got 168 signatures here. Some of which are in several of each of your districts. Did I leave one back here first?
She's,
Thanks, sir.
Is that it?
if you don't want to give Ms. Marie one.
Well, to start with, I came to discuss against a convenience store. But as I sit here and listen to Mr. Riddle, he doesn't know what he wants to do with the property. So now, we're really in a mess. Because if you guys agree to rezone it, we have no idea what he's gonna do. He mentioned a grocery store. He wants to come and be perfect for a grocery store. We've got a grocery store in Dublin. He mentioned he didn't want to try and hurt Elizabethtown or the county. He never once mentioned Dublin. When I bought this property 2.5 years ago, I spoke to the owners. They were going to give me an opportunity at the property, which they did, which is well beyond the value to me and my family. We can't spend that kind of money. We don't have $1.8 million in assets that we can just fork out money for property to sit there. The site plan, proposed site plan that they submitted, had the closest location about 93 feet from my property, which is, if I've looked at it correctly, this room is about 38, possibly 40 feet. So a little more than that. We're talking about a convenience store or a grocery store or a mall, whatever it was, however it was he phrased it. But if you guys rezone, like I say, you have no idea what he's gonna put there. If you've been by the property, it is wet. It is wet. We deal with it where we're at now already. I'm not a commercial realtor, I don't know all the rules, but I know there would have to be a lot of dirt hauled in there to that low land to bring it up as high as that road, the curve of the road goes. The traffic there is already terrible. If you put somebody going straight across from 41, we're constantly hearing the big transfer trucks coming through there, mainly from Bethel this way. Instead of stopping for the light, they lay down on the horn and keep right on going through it. Well, if now you've got people going straight across instead of just making that right turn, we've got even bigger problems. I think with the intersection up at 410 and 41, we already had major problems there. Now we're gonna increase the problems at this other intersection. I don't know how to appeal to you, other than if you could just put yourself in our shoes. It's right next to our property. Every door I walk out of, I'm gonna be looking at whatever's there. Whether it's a store or a gas station or office space or a brick wall. That's gonna be my view. We spent our life savings to move in this house. It was, like I say, it was a low wetland next to us. If I could have ever dreamed that it could possibly be zoned commercial, I certainly wouldn't have spent my life savings to buy that house. Traffic, the economic input, I don't think, well, of course, we don't know, since we don't know what he's gonna put there. But, I think the economic impact is gonna be, not near worth the value of how much you'd be hurting the residents all around that area. As I said, if you look over those 168 signatures, you'll see that this is not just my opinion. So I appreciate your consideration on this.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Mr. William McNeil.
Good evening. When I spoke with Mr. Riddle today, I did tell him that we heard noise on the intersection. I live in a house that is off the road. You cannot see it from the road. It's building 1862, and 4 generations of my family have lived on that land. Mr. Riddle doesn't say that he will not build a gas station convenience store. And he told me on the phone that a gas station convenience store was the perfect fit for this land. Gas stations and convenience stores are the most high impact of all businesses. The idea of a combined gas station convenience store is one thing, but the reality is another. The business could create extreme noise in our neighborhoods. In addition to the noise we already hear of the aggressive mufflers, the trucks, the boom boxes in the back of the cars, it would be a nightmare. The in and out traffic would be intolerable. Cars and trucks with aggressively loud exhaust pipes would be heard all over the neighborhood. Other sounds that we would hear are boom boxes playing heavy bass music, which can travel up to a mile or more. Loud talking in front of the store. Young people hanging out at the store at all hours. And there's so many young men with the aggressive mufflers now. It's just a part of the reality we live in now, the noise. And the environment we live in is so important to our well-being. And we all want to live in a quiet environment. Young people hanging out at the store after hours would also be a problem. Convenience stores open very early in the morning and they close very late. And some of the convenience stores are open 24 hours per day. And even if they close and there are 8 gas tanks in front, the possibility of all night long noise would deprive us of our sleep. The types of noise heard at convenience stores do not stay in the perimeter of the parking lot. The noise permeates the entire neighborhood, degrading the quality of life for all in earshot. In consideration of the potential harm a gas station convenience store will do to neighbors, I urge you to vote against commercial rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's it. Anyone else? Come in like they want to speak? I declare the public hearing closed. Go ahead.
Now, Mr. Evans, I was on the planning board for 6 years, on the Bladen County planning board. And the thing I'm trying to get in my mind while we're doing this is, I live in the Elizabeth town, EJT. And they came in and put stipulations on what can be built next door to me and in my yard. I can't build anything without getting their approval to put it there. And they came in and put classifications on what can be built. Some things I wanted to do, they wouldn't allow me to do it on my own property. It was mine. And the county, do we have specific industry that can be put on land? Do we categorize like the town of Elizabeth?
No, the town zoning is a lot more specific. They have, like, you know, light industrial, light commercial, heavy, just different levels of commercial or industrial type development. Our county zoning, when we developed it 25 years ago, we had an industrial zoning district, commercial zoning district, an RA, agricultural zoning district, and conservation, and those were the only 5 districts that we had strictly residential.
But the only reason I asked this question is, we're dealing with this dilemma right now, with someone wanting to put something on a piece of property, but we don't specify what's eligible to go on a piece of property for the county. So when he comes in and gives us a proposal for a piece of property, I feel about like anybody else that owns some property, I should be able to do what I want to do with it. And if you give it a generalized topic, then I should be able to put any kind of commercial I want to put on.
Mr. Cardell, that's exactly what he's trying to do. If we rezone that commercial property, he put anything he wants to there.
That's what
I agree.
I'm asking.
I mean, it's already in there. What you're saying is he can do it.
But that's what I'm asking.
He can say he's gonna put a gas station, but once we rezone it, he can do anything, as long as it's commercial.
But what I'm asking, do we need to rethink our policy? That's all I'm asking.
Thank you. The public hearing's closed.
Put stuff in here.
I've got a special recognition for, elder abuse. Y'all want to come up in front?
Y'all got something else to do?
Anybody else need to get up? Whereas older adults deserve to be treated with respect and dignity to enable them to save, to serve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and vital participation in members of communities. Whereas in 2006, the International Network for Prevention of Elders Abuse is supported by the International Plan of Action, proclaimed today to recognize the significance of elder abuse as a public health and human rights issue. Whereas June 15, 2021 marked World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Its recognition will promote a better understanding of abuse and neglect of older adults. Whereas the National Center on Elder Abuse and Bladen County Board of Commissioners recognize the importance of taking actions to raise awareness, prevent, and address elder abuse. Whereas as our population lives longer, we are presented with the opportunity to think about our collective needs and future as a nation. Whereas ageism and social isolation are major causes of elder abuse in the United States. Whereas recognizing that it is up to all of us to ensure that proper social structures exist so that people can retain community and social connections, reducing the livelihood of abuse. Whereas preventing abuse of older adults through maintaining and improving social support like senior centers, human services, and transportation will will allow everyone to continue to live as independently as possible and contribute to the life and vibrancy of our community. And whereas, where there is justice, there can be no abuse. Therefore, NCEA urges all people to restore justice by honoring elder abuse. Therefore, the Bladen County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim June 15, 2021 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in Bladen County, and encourages all of our community to recognize and celebrate older adults and their ongoing contribution to the success and vitality of our county. Join us in engaging and empowering movements and putting an end to elder abuse. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Speech.
This is a population, the elderly, that is one of the most vulnerable in the county. Of course, the other is children. These are the elders in our community that has worked hard all of their life, and once they become elder, they are taken advantage of. And it is our duty to protect them and to keep that from happening to them. So always know that you have someone available 24 hours a day to accept a report of abuse and neglect or exploitation of your senior adults. You may do that by calling our agency at 862-6800, or you may contact us after hours by calling the Sheriff's Department at 862-8141. Something that a lot of people don't know, any report that we get, we do have to screen a report. If the report does not meet the definition of abuse and neglect, we still check on those elders. So we do try to make sure that they are taken care of and that we do evaluate what their needs are and how we can help them. Put something purple on your porch, on your mailbox, a light, or however you want to do to put a recognition on June 15th. Look forward to seeing that across Bladen County. Thank you.
The individual delegation wants to address the board. Matters of interest to commissioners. Mr. McGill has something. Cameron.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Greetings from Des Moines, Iowa. I apologize for not being able to be there in person. I wanted to at least be able to be a part of that public hearing and hear from our citizens. And I'm going to have to bail out. I have an engagement here with our Lieutenant Governor beginning here in the next 10 minutes. Again, my apologies. I will not make a habit of this. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Mungoins. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you did notice, but requested I have an engagement that I have to leave early, so in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
So
Do you have anything to say before you leave?
No, I talked to Mr. Martin today, and I think I have all the answers, but I will discuss a few things with you later.
Okay. So this time,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
There is one thing I spoke with Greg earlier today. I know our citizens out in Bay Tree are at the sort of the outskirts of our community, and most of you, I'm sure, received the email about the current situation with their septic system, and you know, that's an unusual community out there. They exist almost in seclusion. Most of the residents are not local to Bladen County. They're not very active in the community, and I know that we do not have a legal obligation to provide them sewer systems, but we do have a moral and ethical obligation to make sure that things out in that part of our county are safe, and the citizens that live in Bay Tree do have ample protection from anything that could do them detrimental harm. So anything that we can do as a board to assist them in moving forward with getting their sewer system in line, in order. So there's quite a bit of our economic growth is coming right now through Main Street. People are buying lots out there left and right with plans to build, and there is a panic out there right now on what they're going to do with these newly acquired lots. I know one of the local builders has 4 or 5 contracts right now planning on beginning construction over the next few months, and now all that's at a standstill. So just something I think we need to take very seriously.
Mr. Martin got that email also, and I think he's following up with it, so he'll be back with us on that. So Dr. Duffield, I'm going, and Pastor Cameron, you're excused.
Mr. Chairman, I got that.
Go ahead.
I'd like for us to research the House Bill number 921, Mr. Martin, and request that if we can support that, do a proclamation in support of that House Bill 921. It refers to grants for businesses and the education for Tier 1 counties. So if we can get together and do a proclamation, I sure would appreciate it. House Bill 921. Also, Mr. Chairman, I was approached, I think this is something that the Board of Education should handle, but I was approached by an instructor saying that Robeson County teachers are getting $1,000 COVID-19 relief fund, and he was asking me about it, but I told him I thought maybe he should take that to the Board of Education. But Mr. Martin, maybe you can research that. And it's Robeson County, so all the teachers are getting $1,000 relief money. Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Anyone else have anything? Okay. So it has always been board policy, past and present, to go into closed session to hear and discuss a grievance made against the county employee. This is allowed for statute NCG S 143.318.11 6. The same statute also clearly states that the board cannot go into closed session to discuss general personnel policy issues. At our last meeting, I denied Commissioner Bullock's request to go into closed session because his request was, and I quote, using his actual word, to discuss general personnel policy issues. However, Commissioner Bullock did not discuss general personnel issues as he said he was going to do. Instead, he brought up a grievance made to him about county employees. Using a public platform such as a commissioner meeting to discuss employee grievance is not helpful in conflict resolution and is not how this organization handles such matters. I have spoken with all commissioners about Commissioner Bullock, even spoke to Mr. Bullock, and decision to publicly embarrass, verbally attack our employees. The majority of this commissioner board does not agree with the actions of Commissioner Bullock.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to give some comments on that.
I'll pass it. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. What Mr. Peterson was referring to, I made some comments at the last meeting about some things that were going on that it came to me. I did not call anyone's particular name or anything, but I did want us to address this, and I asked for this to be done in a closed session so that we just be among the commissioners and others that are there. What you have in hand is the rules of procedure for Bladen County Commissioners. That's what you have in hand. Now, you refer, the ones that have the copy, refer to page 5, which is the second page. It says in here, any board member made by the close of business on Thursday prior to a regular meeting have an item placed on the proposed agenda. So I contacted Mr. Martin that Wednesday prior to that, right, Mr. Martin?
Wednesday or Thursday.
Wednesday prior to that, to have a closed session put on the actual agenda. And he told me that he would have to confer with the chairman, but I didn't see where that was required in regards to our rules of procedure. Now, on the next page, the first page that I gave you, page 2, it says in there, in closed session, rule 3, it says, number 7, to hear or investigate a charge, complaint, or grievance by or against an individual, public officer, or employee. Now, I was voicing information about the employee. I didn't call anybody's name. I did call the department. But this tells me that I was in full right to do that.
You better read it again.
Under our rules of procedure, this tells me that I was proper in what I did. I just want the general public to know that I went by this rule, and if I was wrong, I accept that. But this rule tells me that I can do that. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bullock, we go by the general statute, and I read it out to you. I'm gonna say this, and I ain't gonna say it more.
Yes, sir.
When you talk to Mr. Martin tried his best to find out what you wanted to go in closed session for, and you would not tell him. And he told you then, and sent you a copy of the statute saying that you can't go in closed session for general personnel issues.
I did what I thought was correct, based on our
That's
rules.
well and good. And then when you come and want me to do it, you won't go in closed session next time unless you tell us what it's about.
I told him.
And this does not cover what he's talking about.
Let me ask a question on this, Mr. Chairman. If you look on the agenda today that we're going into, I asked Mr. Morgan to put that as an item on the agenda for us to talk about closed session. And I've got other people that I've spoken with, just like you, that have a concern about how we go into closed session and what happens when we get ready to have a closed session. We never, on this board, I walk into them all the time, and what that topic is about, we never know. You never share it with us, Mr. Martin don't share it with us. He'll tell us we have a closed session, we walk back in there, we don't know what it's about, what, A, B, or D, or what. And that was the reason I said maybe we need to clear up this, and I had that on the agenda tonight, so that we can understand what we do when we go into closed session. So we wouldn't have this conflict of people having a misunderstanding as a board and trying to get some unity amongst the board. But I have the same wonders, and that's the reason I brought this on this agenda, and I thought we were going to talk about it tonight.
We are when we get there.
That's what I'm talking about, as to how we handle closed session, because everybody's not fully aware of how you handle closed session, Mr. Peter. Maybe you are, because you've been on the board for 16 years. But some of the guys have been here long enough to know. We'll say education. Education what? Whether it's funding or what?
Mr. Bullock, we're going to talk about it down the below.
That's what I'm saying. So why are you bringing this issue up now?
Because it's under, comments under commissioners. That was my comments.
That's my comment, what I just said.
Say what you want to say.
Say what you want to say,
Mr. Bullock, Mr. Martin tried to find out what that
and why you say,
about.
and the person you made one statement, you say it's the consensus of the board, is that what you said?
I said the majority of the board, and it was the majority of the board when I pulled.
Well, you need to poll them again while we sit
Well,
here.
maybe next week I'll censor them and I'll get the votes in.
Maybe you need to poll. You sitting here making that kind of statement, you ain't got my support on it. I ain't hear you poll me.
No, you and I tell you who didn't support it. You and Mr. Bullock and Dr. F. Mungo did not support it. And Rodney didn't really give me an answer.
But let me say this, Mr.
We're
Chairman.
moving on.
Let me say this. Mr. Chairman called me and asked me to apologize to those folks. I said, apologize to who? I didn't call anybody's name. He asked me to apologize. And if I did, wait a minute, sir. And if I didn't apologize, he would censor me. I said, I didn't call anybody's name. Who am I to apologize to? End of story.
More will be coming next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Next
I'll be ready.
Anyone else? Dublin Fire District. Okay, guys.
Thank you, Commissioner, Chairman, and other board members. Appreciate the opportunity to come tonight to
discuss the Bladen Fire Protection District. I am Gene Lockerbie, I'm president of the Bladen Fire Protection District Board of Directors Incorporated. And with me is Jason Britt, he is chairman of the Fire District Commissioners. We come tonight asking to increase the government fire tax, district fire tax, 3.3 cents. That is to be used to pay part-time help Monday through Friday, 8 hours, 2 people. Most of our citizens work out of the county. They're not here Monday through Friday during the daytime, and we are now having some problems making sure we have enough firefighters to respond to the structural call. Our rating is for our district is a 5/9. 5 is for the businesses, from development of houses. We are rated 6, because that's as low as it goes. And we want to maintain that. And to do that, we will need some part-time help to do that.
Mr. Lockerbie, your advisory board and the town has endorsed this?
Yes.
Okay. We'll take care of it in the budget.
Thank you.
Budget workshop. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Emergency service upgrade regarding east and west generator project.
Good evening again. As you're aware, back in 2016, when Bradley was still here, he applied through Hurricane Matthew with the state, which is FEMA funds, for a generator at West Bladen and a transfer switch at East Bladen. We got approval on that mid last year for $317,000. I worked with Rusty at Rusty Worley, school engineer, and we quickly realized that what was initially applied for would not suffice as the needs for what was applied for would not. We couldn't use it at East and West Bladen. There wasn't enough generator. We applied for a 500 kW generator that would power exactly what's being powered there by the generator that's there now, which is just refrigerators, no heating, no air, anything in the gyms. The transfer switch at East Bladen would be more useful if you had a generator at East Bladen. So we don't have a generator at East Bladen. So we reapplied with the state, worked with Rusty. He got us some preliminary numbers from some generator engineers. Quickly realized that we'd have to do an electrical schematic for both schools, which added more cost to it. We reapplied back to the state through HMGP for a 1.2 million. It would have been to put a generator and transfer switch at each school that would power AC in the gym and the auxiliary gym and run their full kitchen, pretty much power the whole bottom floor of the school in the event that we would have to use it for a shelter. That request was denied by the state, or not supported by FEMA, which is who the state had to get clarification from. We then went back to the drawing board with the state and asked if we could use all of the money to put a generator and a transfer switch at East Bladen, being that West already had a generator because we had nothing at East. They said no, it would have to be used. At first they told us we could. We moved forward with that. They quickly called me back, told me we couldn't. It had to be used exactly how it was wrote. So, long story short, after going back and forth with them for almost a year, we told them we'll apply next time for exactly what we need. And 4 years ago, everything's went up since then. We quickly realized that the county and the school system and both was going to have to put somewhere around 1.5 million in this. So we told them, y'all keep the 300 and we'll get it next time. So Greg wanted me to come and give you an update. I'll be glad to answer any questions on that. That's kind of what's going on with the generators.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas. Number 9 is advisory boards for June 21st. We've got 20 advisory boards we need to be looking at. 20. That's a lot. And then in July the 12th, we've got 2. So I'll turn it over to the county manager at this time, Mr. Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to review the calendar with you for the month of June and also the month of July. And point out that next Monday on the 14th at 5 p.m. there's a Health and Human Services Advisory Board meeting at the Health Department. Also, as you all know, we're moving forward with the strategic planning process for the county. And we have a meeting scheduled for July 7th. However, in preparation for that meeting, we would like for you all to have a Zoom meeting with the folks from Fountain Works so that when you all get together on July 7th, you'll be able to hit the ground running. Proposed time for that, or proposed date, is next Monday, the 14th, at a time that works well for you all if that takes place.
What time works best for us?
It can be in the evening, it can be,
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock.
You said that'll be a Zoom meeting?
Yes.
6 o'clock.
You all can come, I mean, you can come here if you want to, or you can Zoom in.
I'm gonna be on vacation out of town.
Oh, yeah, well, if you can join, that'd be great.
What time is it?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Make a motion at 6 o'clock.
Motion by Mr. Cogdell, second by Mr. Danny.
Let me ask one question.
Any discussion?
One question. How long you think that the Zoom would last?
I would think more than an hour or so. This
Okay.
is just to help you be thinking about things that
Yes,
you
sir.
need. Because from that, and I'll tell you the real purpose from that July 7th meeting, there are going to be decisions that need to be made quickly with regard to committees and that type of thing. And so it's just to help you get thinking about this.
Okay, because I have a meeting with the Southeastern Community Action Partnership at 7 o'clock, but I can be there 1 hour.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, sir.
Ms. Marie?
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Britt?
Yes.
Mr. Bullock?
Yes.
Mr. Cogdell?
Yes.
Dr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Hester?
Yes.
So we'll need to make sure Dr. Lewis and Patrick deals. Okay.
All right, moving on to the 15th at 12 noon, Tuesday, the chamber meets at the Cape Fear Farmers Market. Also that evening, there's the Bladen County Substance Use Disorder Task Force meeting at the Bladen Community College Auditorium. On Saturday, the 19th, from 9 until 1, there's a touch and truck event at Bladen Community College. Yes.
On June the 19th, we don't have a Juneteenth community celebration and a vaccine clinic. It's gonna be at the Mount Zion, Zion Church, with the clinic, and across the street would be the area for the Juneteenth celebration.
From 11 a.m.
11 to 3.
Okay, thank you.
11 to 3.
All right, the board has a meeting scheduled for Monday, the 21st at 6:30. While we're there, one other topic to bring to your attention. I don't know how much more discussion you all want to have with regard to the budget. I didn't know if you want to get together before that 6:30 meeting and have further discussion, or another date works well, or just want to be mindful that the end of June will be coming quickly.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I think we need to meet early.
It's gotta be done by Friday.
You can do it, you can do it at 5 o'clock.
I don't care.
Everybody want to do it at 5?
It has to be done by the 30th, right?
Yes, sir. We do it at 5 o'clock, and then everything else is hour and a half.
We're on the 21st.
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I got a motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bullock. Any discussion? Ms. Marie?
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Britt?
Yes.
Mr. Bullock?
Yes.
Mr. Cogdell?
Yes.
Dr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Hester?
Yes.
Thank you. And then on the 26th, from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m., the first annual Tar Heel Craft Show will take place at the Tar Heel Town Hall. Moving over to July, on Thursday the 1st at 12 noon, the JCPC council meets. On Monday the 5th, offices will be closed in observance of the Independence Day holiday. There's a prayer service here at 8 a.m. on the 6th. on Wednesday, the 7th, from 2 until 5 p.m. The strategic planning session will take place. And we're looking at, you all have any preference as far as the large classroom we've used before at BCC, or because this is a smaller group, Fountain Works would love for you to kind of be around tables instead of airport would be. Does anybody have a problem with the airport if it's available? Smaller space?
Some people gonna be there from time.
No, two.
Two?
Maybe four.
Just
But two will be interacting with
Will this be commissioners or
you.
there?
Maybe 4 or 5 division managers.
What about right here?
We could. I mean, as long as it's kind of a space where you can see each other and talk.
That room at BCC, you think is too large?
Yeah, well, you're just kind of looking forward, but you're not kind of, it's not the best for turning and having discussion. Okay, we'll get that one, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. On Monday the 12th at 5, the Health and Human Services Advisory Board meets, the Board of Commissioners has a meeting that evening at 6:30. Beginning on the 16th, that Friday, the NACO conference begins, and that will be in Maryland. There's a career camp at Bladen Community College on Monday the 19th that continues through Thursday the 22nd. That's all I have for the calendar.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question. Mr. Chairman, I got a question.
Oh, yes, sir.
So, Dr. Lee, do you have any flyers for this careers camp? Is there any flyers?
We do have some flyers. I'll be glad to get it to Mr. Martin and have them distributed to you.
Okay, you can email it to me, okay?
That'd be fine too.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Martin?
Thank you. Moving to item B, I just want to update you regarding a broadband assessment that is out now. It's a survey, and the purpose is to try to find out about the broadband access to citizens in our county. Do they have broadband? How fast is the internet speed? Are they satisfied with their service, their monthly cost, and that type of thing? So this is part of that program that the Council of Governments is taking the lead on. So it has a QR code you can scan and take it as very simple.
I got one question on that.
Okay.
I know certain areas of the county I can go into now, and I got AT&T, and there is no service to those. Is that consistent with the broadband coverage? If a kid had an AT&T phone and went to Amazon, they couldn't use it anyway, because you can't get service in Amazon. Is that part of the broadband care work?
If they don't have any other services, definitely.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I know AT&T don't have reaches in certain parts of the county.
That's where they live, that's important for them.
Okay, but that's the issue.
Okay, Mr. Martin, there's also a federal program, I can't think of the name of it now, where you give $50 adjustment on your internet bill.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it right now, though.
And because all the students in Bladen County school system receive free lunch, those families are eligible. So
Yes, sir. You talked about that last week.
And college students on Pell Grants can also get that adjustment on their internet bill.
Thank you very much. Moving to item C. I have several matters, Mr. Chairman, there are actually 3 matters. If you want to take action at one time, that's up to you. One, the first is a release deed, and this is in regard to the property at Tar Hill where the new K-8 school will be constructed. As you know, there's a deed of trust held by Bank of America related to the qualified school construction bond. So this is necessary because that bond cannot be paid off early, so it doesn't expire until September of 2027. That's the one the federal government pays the interest. So we need to approve a release deed. If you all, I know you have to do a roll call, so if you don't do it, one motion.
Mr. Brick made the motion to
Second.
approve. Second, Mr. Bullock. Any discussion?
One thing, I looked out on that, Mr. Johnson, I get a chance to talk. Who owns that property? The county?
We don't own it, right now, we're gonna bid, it's not gonna be a release deed, it's gonna be a deed, we're gonna lease the back portion of it, so that's about
Done
it.
swap land. Mr. Brick.
And they gonna cancel the deed of trust, it's a deed of trust on that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Already got it worked
Mr.
out.
Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Britt?
Yes.
Mr. Bullock?
Yes.
Mr. Cockdale?
Yes.
Dr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Hester?
Yes.
What he turned it on.
Moving to the second item, as we indicated, the county is going to deed the front portion, 12 acres of the property to the school system. And we're required to maintain the, and that's required for the 3-to-1 max, that you all know, $15 million. And so this is a deed to transfer that property.
Motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Britt, second by Mr. Bullock. Any discussion? Mr. Reed?
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Britt?
Yes.
Mr. Bullock?
Yes.
Mr. Cogdale?
Yes.
Dr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Hester?
Yes. And then, thank you, then the third item is to approve a lease agreement with the school system for the back portion, the back 12 acres of property.
Motion by Mr. Britt.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bullock. Any discussion? Mr. Ray?
Excuse me. Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Britt?
Yes.
Mr. Bullock?
Yes.
Mr. Cogdale?
Yes.
Dr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Hester?
Yes.
Mr. Martin, even though that next one's under, matters of interest, Commissioner, will you please leave that off?
If you jump to,
I thought that was your last one.
yeah, no, there's item D. The board's requested to approve a declaration of official intent to reimburse so that as funds begin to be spent, we can include that for reimbursement when the formal loan's done later on.
Mr. Britt?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bullock. Any discussion? Mr. Reed?
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Britt? Mr. Britt?
Yes.
Mr. Bullock?
Yes.
Mr. Cogdale?
Yes.
Dr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Hester?
Yes.
Individuals delegation wish to address commissioners. Item 13, matters of interest to Commissioner. Mr. Martin, will you leave that off?
Yes, sir. Mr. Cogdale called me, one day last week, and asked if we would add an item to the agenda to discuss, procedure for closed sessions. And so, what we've included, just for your information and review, because as we discussed, state statute governs that, so it's not a local policy or anything like that. And you have the specific purposes for which a closed session can be held. There is the statement that general personnel policy issues may not be considered in a closed session. But the one point that I wanted to just take an opportunity to review with you and to remind you, back a few months ago at a meeting in the Superior Courtroom, Commissioner Cogdale requested that going forward, that the commissioners be notified of the specific purpose for a closed session. And the way I understood it is, for instance, if it's a personnel matter, that we call to let the commissioners know ahead of time what the nature of that issue to be discussed would be. And so we certainly intend to do that. We haven't had a closed session since that request was made. So that was part of the, I guess, part of the reason behind the question. And first of all, we need to know it's a legal purpose on Mr. Bullock's recent request to have a closed session. But in addition, and more specifically, beyond the legal purpose that we needed to ensure, was to be able to let the commissioners know what would be discussed in closed session. So,
Mr. Bullock, Mr. Cogdale?
Okay, here, this was the question, Ms. Peterson, that when you was having a conversation earlier in the meeting. I had asked that, and that was one time I have asked and requested that on 2 occasions. I asked for it at the workshop we had at the community college. The same thing I asked, why weren't we allowed to know in general, other than education, finance, or economics, why wouldn't we given some type of information in regards as to what open session, what closed session would be? And your response was, Ms. Cardell, it may get out, and you got to figure out how to get it done so they won't get out before we go. And so that was what I think when Mr. Bullock looked at the problem. And we kind of, and I talked with Mr. Ellis, and I talked with Mr. Hester, and talked with some of the others, they all had that kind of misconstrued conception of how the board was supposed to.
Mr. Cogdale, speak for yourself, please.
Well, okay, but how the board,
rest of them can speak for themselves.
well, how the board would function, and as far as who gets information and what information comes to us in regards to a closed session. And that was what I called Attorney Johnson. And I asked him, I said, Attorney Johnson, is it private information for us to be able to know, in general terms, what's going to happen in a closed session? He said you could give general terms, but not to go into specifics that would be discussed in closed session. But if it was something with a lawsuit, am I right, Attorney Johnson, a legal issue, you could say, and let us know, it's gonna be a legal issue with the Board of Education, a legal issue with our employee. We could give that type of this scenario. And I'm just asking, is that gonna be the rule that's gonna govern the board from this point on? So everybody will have an understanding that, like Mr. Bullock had one, that everybody understands. If that topic comes to this board, everybody has knowledge of it, and Mr. Martin should let all of us know what the knowledge of that closed session is gonna be about, unless it's an emergency situation. Like he expressed to me, sometimes we have emergencies where it's on a timeline, and we have to meet some time deadlines, and we have had closed sessions in regards to that. But just in general, why shouldn't we know, before we go into closed session, more specific about what issues are going to be discussed?
Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Martin just said that he would do that going forward.
That's what I wanted to make sure, because that's why I would tell you, that we had already had this discussion 2 or 3 times. And here we go again.
We haven't been in closed session.
Charles.
Mr. Ellis.
I would just make the point, though, that I understand he's wanting a general topic, but at the same time, you know, closed session items, as I understand, and I am somewhat of a newbie compared to a lot of guys on this board, but you are going in there with an open mind to where you're not going into a closed session. Everything's been discussed amongst, you know, sometimes there's too much information going into a closed session. In other words, you want to go in and maybe know the topic, but sometimes it's better to kind of walk in. I think that then you get there, find out what the issue is, you make a decision together, and then you walk out. And so,
anyone else?
Not on that.
So I would like to thank Mr. Bullock, because the paper we passed out to you, if you read it, it says to hear and investigate a charge, complaint, or grievance. Well, all Mr. Bullock had to do was tell Mr. Martin that Wednesday, or tell me when I asked him what closed session for, and that's all he had to tell me. Instead of that, he told me it was general personnel, and that statute does not allow. So thank you, Mr. Bullock, for bailing me out.
Yeah, you better, y'all. One last question I'm gonna say about that, Mr. Peterson, and maybe we just move on to the next thing. Whenever I see a closed session that's on the agenda, it'll have the statute and it'll give the related thing that it's about, economics or education. It gives that statute that applies to that issue we going in there. It doesn't tell us anything about what's happening. It doesn't give us any clarity on it either. It never has any clarity on it.
All right, then, well, you can make up your rules as you go if you want to. We follow the general statute, and I'm sorry. Ron, you got a comment?
Yeah, y'all finished with this? I just have a question. As far as when the planning board meets and they have something about rezoning, do the property owners, are they notified about the planning board here?
That's a good question. A rezoning of property is the only issue that comes to the Board of County Commissioners. Other issues are determined and decided by the planning board. For instance, a special use permit, if there's a cell tower request, for instance. That's a decision that is made by the planning board after they hold the public hearing. So there are certain instances, and this rare, I mean, we don't have very many rezoning applications. They happen from time to time. But this is the board that holds the public hearing on the rezoning matter. The application goes through the planning board, they hear just the merits of it and make a favorable or unfavorable recommendation on to the Board of County Commissioners.
I just think that if the planning board only gets to hear one side of it, we just hear a lot more tonight, so they don't have all the information that we do to make that decision.
That's exactly right.
So it kind of.
Only on rezoning applications. They go through this same process that you all have tonight on special use permit decisions. And sometimes those can be, you know, there can be different thoughts and things as well.
I just know the town of Waymark, they do, for planning board, they notify the property, the property owner of the planning board.
We do too.
We do that.
We do too.
They, none of the property owners know about these.
No, they did for tonight.
I'm talking about for tonight, but not from the planning, for the planning board.
I think they do, that's what Greg said.
That's what, I thought you said that we notified everybody.
We did
Y'all
for
don't,
tonight.
Mr. Harrison, do y'all send out letters before you're hearing to anybody? Nobody knows anything about it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Mr. Riddle.
That's wrong. Anybody else got anything?
Thank you, sir.
Entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second. Second by Mr. Reed.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Britt. Mr. Bullock.
Yes.
Mr. Cottrell. Dr. Ellis. Can you bring this up? That's your.